Happy Friday, everyone. And you know, I never use the term TGIF, thank God it's Friday, because if you are truly living a life of freedom and fulfillment, you are thankful for every single day. This is the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Curt Mercadante. I hope you have had a fabulous week. And if today is yet another Friday where you're living just to escape on Fridays and the weekends and you dread Mondays and that happens week after week, then it is time for you to make a change. Go to my website, curtmercadante.com. Check it out. There are resources there. There's my 30-day Freedom Lifestyle Transformation course. Sign up for it and start jump-starting your freedom lifestyle today. And speaking of the freedom lifestyle, what does it mean? What's it all about? That's what today's episode is all about. It was recorded last week at my very successful Freedom Club local DFW event in Plano, Texas. We had a packed house. We had awesome guests. You heard my interview on Wednesday with Katie Wallace, entrepreneur, founder of Huck Sustainables. If you have not yet listened to that episode, what the hell are you doing? Go back, listen to it right now. Especially if you're someone who has been paralyzed by fear to make that jump into that business, that side hustle, whatever it is that has been languishing because you're paralyzed with fear. She's got some great tips to make that jump, to make that leap into entrepreneurship. But in today's episode, I discuss just what the hell is the freedom lifestyle? What's it all about? Is it a mindset? Is it an intentional way of living? You're going to find out in today's episode of the Freedom Club Podcast.
Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we strive to pull you out of your life of quiet desperation, out of your comfort zone of misery, and propel you into a life of freedom and fulfillment. And now, here's your host for this journey, international speaker and coach, and serial entrepreneur, Curt Mercadante.
Like I do.
So thank you so much for being here. Freedom Club Local, I'm getting tangled up in the mic, is the name of my podcast. Is anyone here a subscriber to my podcast?
Woo!
Embarrassment. Yeah, right. So if you are not, as Chad and I were talking, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes, of course. So we're growing every month. And I don't care if there's 2 people listening to it or 20,000 people listening. If I'm able to just help one person in a day to move in the direction of living the freedom lifestyle, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, then I've done my job. And I do that through a lot of folks have seen my LinkedIn videos and some other things. And the reason I started doing that, 2 years ago, over the course of 13 years, I scaled a public relations and ad agency. And it was doing really well. I had 7 figures. About 5 years into it, I was overwhelmed and frustrated. I hated it. I wanted to give it up. At the time, we had 2 kids, but I never saw them. And I had a home office. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd disappear. I'd go up to the home office. I'd come down, I'd eat dinner. I'd disappear again. I'd get up at 4, go back up to bed at 4 in the morning, get up, eat breakfast, do it all over again. So I hated it. And I did a number of things to build some more freedom in my life and time freedom. One thing I did was I fired half my clients. And interestingly enough, it was only after I fired half my clients that I pushed my revenue over $1 million the next year. Because I had people who valued me. I started focusing on outcomes instead of just taking money from anyone who offered it to me. But something was still missing. And in 2012, I didn't know what it was. I was having anxiety attacks in and out of urgent care. I changed my diet, which is one reason I don't eat a lot of Korean barbecue. And that helped a little bit, but it didn't help a lot. And I'd have a ton of anxiety attacks to the point where my wife had to keep the kids away from me because I was just like catatonic, rocking back and forth on the bed. And I felt guilty because we had a lot of money, we had a great family, we had a great house. So what the hell did I have to feel guilty about? And in 2012, my dad passed away. And my dad was, I work Stark Industries. I'm a big superhero nerd. If anyone of you listen to my podcast, watch my videos, knows. My dad, to me, was Tony Stark. He worked on the space program. He designed fighter jets. He led the team that designed all the electronic switches on the Boeing 777. But when he, at his wake, there were 80-year-old men in tears talking about my dad. Not one of them mentioned anything he did in his career. It was about what he did as a father. It was about volunteering for the community in our church. He was president of the University of Notre Dame Club where he graduated. And I was sitting there thinking it was like a slap in the face. He had set this example for me. He was at all my cross-country meets. He was at all my piano recitals. He was always there with me. And he had set this example, and I was basically throwing it down the drain. So I decided there and then to make a change. I had no idea what that meant. Around that time, people started to come to me, actually some clients who were not paying me for this, and said, listen, you've built a business, you have freedom, you're kayaking in the afternoon, you're doing these other things, can you coach us? And I started coaching them. And I started with the Gallup StrengthsFinder program, because that's where I had started to dig myself out of that rut back when I was overwhelmed and frustrated and build that freedom. Because a lot of self-help programs try to get you to mimic a system or process or behaviors that work for someone else. If you do 26 handstands in the morning, just like Richard Branson, you too will be as rich as Richard Branson if you do them in the afternoon, And it's bullshit. But StrengthsFinder is about what's within you. It's about finding your untapped superpowers and investing in them so that they can become full-blown superpowers, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I started coaching people, and the more I coached them, at the end of the day, I realized when I was coaching them, I felt more like I was saving the world like my father had, more so, nothing against public relations and advertising. I just didn't feel like I was saving the world doing it. And so I wanted to make a change, and I realized I want to do that. But the money's great. We got a mortgage. We now have 4 kids. How am I going to do this? So I put together a 4-year plan, and I started building the side hustle of coaching. And the more I began to love that and get fulfillment from it, the more I really hated getting up in the morning to deal with my clients in my agency. And I woke up one morning, it felt like any other work day. The problem was it was supposed to be a vacation week. And it was a Thanksgiving week, and I had told all my clients, week off, I'm taking the week off, that's it. Don't call me. And they kept calling, and they kept emailing, hop on this conference call, get us this report, send us this email, yada, yada, yada. And I sat there, and the following week I was supposed to go out to a meeting up in DC. And the same meeting the year before, we were yelled at for 45 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. It was Monday morning at 8:30 in the morning. It was about 12 degrees. And I'd flown in on Sunday, given up my family time. And we were yelled at for 45 minutes for being low energy in the meeting. We weren't low energy, but it didn't really matter. And I vowed there and then, I'm never coming to this damn meeting ever again. But over the course of a year, fear takes hold. I call it the comfort zone of misery takes hold. You're in a comfort zone, you're making good money, but you're not fulfilled. So it's a comfort zone of misery because you know there's more out there, but the devil you know is safer than the devil you don't. And so it took about a year for me to realize that. So I'm laying in bed that morning, and I thought, if my plane goes down on the way to or from that meeting, I'm not going down like that. So I decided that's it. So I went to my wife. I was scared, shitless, to go to my wife. And I went to her and I said, Julie, I'm done. It's over. And I ducked. And she looked at me and she said, it's about time. And I shut down my agency overnight. 7 figures down the drain. So I thought, all right, I guess I got to make this coaching thing work. So to do that, I did what they tell you, right? Focus on, you hear me talk, if you watch my videos, listen to my podcast, I talk a lot about inputs and bullshit inputs. And when I was here, 70% of your day is bullshit, I talk about inputs. So the input is everyone tells you what to do. You got to build a webinar, you got to build a funnel, you got to build Facebook ads. And so I did it. And I thought I did pretty well. And $20,000 later, I had not a single client. So I thought, well, that's not a really good way to build a business. So I decided to go back to first principles and just start talking to people about what I wanted to do and what they wanted. And I started making a video every day on LinkedIn. I did that for 90 days. About 60 days into it, I built relationships with many other video creators in this room. But after a while, I still didn't have any clients. And Fraser Cameron, who's actually my coach, many of you know, he said, your videos are okay, but you're talking about your program and how great it is and what you do. Why don't you talk about some of the pain points? Some of the things that I brought up today, anxiety attacks, I didn't even bring up till late last year because I still felt guilty about it. So I started talking about that. I talked about the fact you feel like you're building a prison instead of a business. I started talking about the freedom lifestyle. And within 1 week, I had 3 clients. And so it kind of went from there in the LinkedIn videos, and it's been fun. I started the podcast. And, what I do, everything I try to do, other than the superpowers, I talk about that, is help people live the freedom lifestyle. My vision is to save the world by helping individuals live lives of freedom and fulfillment. Myself, my kids, my wife, people I meet randomly, people who watch my videos, people who listen to my podcast, and my clients, and you all who are here today. And the more I talk to people and the more I'm able to accomplish that vision, it is fulfilling because I did a video yesterday. I ran something called the Freedom Club Accelerator, and 75% of the people I talked to jumped in. I was so pissed off about the 3 who did up another 25%. Not because of the money, not because I missed out on getting them in my coaching program, but because I have high standards in terms of how many people I want to help. And if I can't help someone, and yeah, I didn't do it because of a pat on the back, blah, 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 empathy. I don't have sympathy usually. I have empathy, which is different. But it's about helping people. And so that's why I'm doing these events across the country. That's why I'm doing my podcast. That's why I do my coaching. And so I really want to thank all of you for being here tonight. When I announced that I was going to do this, I was like, okay, we'll get 2 people there. And so as you can see from tonight, we got a lot more than 2. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So the freedom lifestyle, what does that mean? It means a lot of different things to different people. And the first question I ask my podcast guests, and you all will get this question, is, what does the word freedom mean to you? And some people want to take it a political route. Some people want to take it a social route. Some people want to take it a route of, I just want to be able to do or say whatever the hell I want whenever I want to say it without any repercussions. But there's always a common theme. And people ask me, well, is the freedom lifestyle all about forgetting about money, quitting your job, selling all your possessions, and moving to the mountains? Could be, I guess. I'm a money guy, I'm a capitalist, I'm a free market guy. For me, no, that ain't gonna happen. I do look at money a lot differently than I used to. Instead of looking at it as money, never having enough of it. My wife and I, when I had a 7-figure agency, we kept talking about traveling. But I never had enough money. We gotta save money, we gotta save the money. We gotta get the next 5, next 10 grand. So I shut down my agency, and what was the first thing we did? 5.5 weeks in Europe. So the freedom lifestyle is about not feeling trapped by money, by doubt, by fear, by a boss, by that comfort zone of misery, by a feeling that you're not good enough, by a constant feeling when you wake up that you're destined for more and you don't know what that more is. Is it a mindset? Absolutely. Is it an intentional way of living? 100%. But it also depends on who you are and what you're about. Over the course of the past 2 years, I've distilled it down to what I call the Freedom 5, the 5 pillars of the freedom lifestyle. And I used to have 9 points and a 9-point program and all that, but what I realized is a lot of them could be combined into these 5. And the 5 pillars are, number 1, superpowers. So I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. There's a difference between strengths and skills. I think we were talking about this on LinkedIn today. So a lot of people, to understand this, I had a client, he had played semi-pro ball, baseball. And I said, okay, you're a pretty good hitter. He said, yeah. I said, did you hit from the right side of the plate or the left side? He said, right side. I said, okay, what if at the beginning of the season you went in and your manager said, hey, Chris, we're going to have you this year, we're going to try something new. We're going to have you hit from the left-handed side of the plate all year. And he said, well, I would have sucked. I would have hated it. I would have gotten benched, or I would have quit. I said, exactly. Hitting is a skill. Whether or not you hit from the right-handed side of the plate or the left side of the plate is your untapped superpower, your talent. And actually, those of you who take the StrengthsFinder assessment, I know you have, it actually should be called Talent Finder, because it shows you those untapped superpowers, those talents, those naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that can be productively applied. And when you productively apply them, when you exercise them every day and work them out like you would work out a muscle at the gym, every single person here has the same amount of muscles, more or less, as Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? What's the difference? He exercised them. But even within the bodybuilding community, he had a bigger chest than most. There were guys who have bigger legs than him. So each of us are unique. And when you take that StrengthsFinder program, there's a 1 in 33 million chance that you will find your strengths twin in the world. A person with the same strengths in the same order. But even then, you combine them with your knowledge, your skills, your passion, your experience. So that's how unique every single one of us is. And so trying to apply that, it worked for Richard Branson, it worked for name the celebrity CEO, and say it's absolutely going to work for me, total bullshit. The second pillar of the Freedom 5 is vision. Having a clearly defined vision for your life. Vision is different than purpose. What vision actually is it's your purpose for living, your purpose for doing what you want, or what you're doing, purpose for living, with the impact you want to make on the world. And I often talk about when Steve Jobs first came back to Apple, he gave a now famous speech about how they were going to bring the Apple brand back. And he said, we're spending a fortune on branding. You wouldn't even know it. He said, to bring the brand back, we're not going to talk about megahertz. We're not going to talk about our computers. We're not going to talk about the features, the bells and whistles. We're not even going to talk about how good or bad Microsoft is. What we're going to talk about is something deeper. He went on to launch the Think Different campaign. If you remember Albert Einstein, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King Jr., what wasn't in any of those ads? A single product. None of it. And he created a vision which is about people with passion can change the world. Purpose paired to the impact. And so having that for your life, that's your desired outcome. If you die in 20 minutes or 20 years from now, what is the 1 to 2 sentences that you would want them to say about your life? And invariably, I'll do workshops and some guy in the back will go, he worked his ass off. I say, really? That's what you want your surviving family, your grandkids, their kids to know about you? Oh, I guess not. What envelops your family, yourself, and your work? That brings us to the third pillar, which is alignment. Work-life balance is total bullshit. Okay? There's not work over here and life over here. There's just life, and how you spend the time in your life is entirely up to you. And a lot of people, they'll come to me and they want to talk about work and career and career. Hey, Curt, my wife said I'd make a good blank. Fill it in. It doesn't matter. What do you think? I don't know. It doesn't matter what I think. What's the vision for your life? Where do you want to end up? If you die in 20 years, you're going to be happy with where you were? And everyone tries to define their work and define their career and then fit family and self into that. And that's the wrong direction. And when you're in your 30s, I find this, when you're in your 20s or 30s, I get in arguments with people on LinkedIn, well, you should have multiple visions for your life. And they think, I'm in my 20s, and my vision is to make partner and make 100 grand. And I get in my 30s, and it's to meet the one I love and have kids. Those are objectives. They are temporary objectives. And I will tell you this, as someone who is now almost going to be 44, there comes a time, maybe it's 35, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 45, maybe it's 50, when you realize you've been jumping from objective to objective without a clear destination of where you're going. And if you don't have that vision, that point on the map to reverse engineer to today, at some point you're going to feel lost. Maybe it's 60. I don't know, maybe it's 65. My first client was a 62-year-old woman who came to me and said, is it too late for me? And I said, is your heart still ticking? She said, yeah. I said, whether or not you have 1 millisecond or 40 years, why would you want to live it without freedom and fulfillment? So finding that alignment between your family, yourself, and your work in a way that works for you. As many of you know, when people try to call bullshit on me, good luck with it. Talk to my wife. She holds me accountable and she doesn't take my shit. I work 12 hours a week. That's the limit I set on it. I hire people out. I delegate. I invest in people to do stuff. Oh, we see you editing videos. That ain't me. Okay? So that's what I want to do for my life. That's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for every single one of you. I have 4 kids. Myself, my family is going to be different from someone who has no kids, who has 1 kid. So finding that alignment is key. And I often do the pizza pie activity where you draw the pizza pie and you draw the 3 slices. A slice for family, a slice for work, and a slice for self. But the slices have to be in direct proportion to that slice of your life, the mind share, the time you spend on it. Not just, I spend 40 hours a week at work, but no, I'm sitting at the dinner table on Saturday and I'm only thinking about work. So you gotta be honest with that. And a lot of people draw that. When I first started doing that activity, I'm like, well, it's pretty obvious. People do the pie, and then I have them draw the slices the way they're supposed to be right over that pie. And they're like, oh shit, this ain't good. So you gotta find that alignment in a way that works for you. The next pillar in the Freedom 5 is outcomes, becoming radically outcomes. A lot of us live our lives based on inputs, those BS inputs. Hey, what did you achieve today? Oh, I was real productive today. I got 20 or 30 things done. I got up earlier, I worked more, I got in the office late at night. That's not productivity, that's called getting more shit done. Real productivity is about outcomes versus inputs. It's about finding the straightest, shortest, simplest line to your outcome and plotting it and living it. Finding that destination on the map and reverse engineering it. So that when I ask you, what did you achieve today? You know those 3 things. There's just 3 things, and if you're doing more than 3 things, there's something wrong and you're just being busy, because busy is a choice. Fraser likes to say busy is the new stupid. But I don't do that kind of tough talk. But busy absolutely is a choice. And a lot of people wear busy as a badge of honor. And they post on Facebook, don't call me this week because I'm going to be so busy doing wonderful things. There's a reason they do that. They choose to be busy. But it's really living a radically outcomes-focused life, starting at that vision, that life, that desired vision you want for your life. You work it backwards so that every year, every month, every week, every day, you know those 3 things you need to achieve that all lead up to your vision. And finally, flow. It's the cumulative effect of everything you've done in that pillar. Gallup has studied individuals. 90% of Fortune 500 companies take StrengthsFinder, and they find that when people work in their strength zone, they're more productive, they're more efficient. You get in that zone of optimal experience, which Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I almost pronounced it, who wrote the book Flow, talks about getting in that state of flow, where you think of a river, right? Flowing river. When you dam it up, the water will find a way to get where it wants to go, but it takes longer. If you're hitting from the left-handed side of the plate all the time, it's going to be less efficient. I do an activity a lot in my workshops where I have people write, if you're right-handed or left-handed, dominant hand, and you write the sentence 3 times. I use my strengths every day. Okay, so they write it. It's pretty quick. So now write those 3 sentences with your non-dominant hand. It takes like 5 minutes. They scribble. I hear, oh gosh, I don't want to do that. When you're using your superpowers every day, when you have that clear vision, that destination on the map that you know you want to do, listen, shit's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to get knocked off the path. But when you have a clear vision of where you want to go, and you know the superpowers you are going to use, like weapons in your backpack, if you come to a flood, you come to a tree that falls in front of you, whatever it is, you know exactly which weapon you're going to choose, and which weapon comes naturally to you. You get knocked off that path, you know your guiding star, you have that vision. You can plot those clear outcomes, not based on inputs, not based on what anyone else wants you to do, not based on what I call coerced conformity. You build outcomes based on the vision, that the way you want to live your life, the way that you want to align your life, which I can't prescribe for you, you need to figure it out. It's much easier to get back on that path and keep moving forward and do it in a way that is extremely efficient and truly productive. So that's the Freedom 5. That's what I work on with my clients. That's what I talk about in my podcast. That's what I talk about in my videos all the time.